You're about to get a glimpse into a very inspiring story of an American entrepreneur that has really lived that American dream. Come on, follow me. I've never been here. I hope I have the right house. I'm anxious to see this guy's car collection. From what I hear, it's one of the best in the country, and I love cars.
Hi, come
Henry,
on in.
I take it. Good
Nice
to meet
see
you.
you. Nice
Hey,
to
great to
see
see
you.
you.
There's
Wow.
Maddie, our dog.
Nice place. Now, how long have you lived here?
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years. And is this some of the family here?
Well, family, my wife's dad on the left, her family, and her family about on the right, yes.
Wow. Okay. Now, do we come into this way?
Yeah, please.
I have to ask about this.
Yeah, that's the...
Right out of the gate, this kind of captures your attention.
Right, we got that in Israel, it's the 1967 war. It's a great picture.
And where did you get this again?
We were in Israel, and
Okay.
we saw it there and bought it.
Wow.
And somehow or another got it back here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Henry, I appreciate you having me out to your home, the hospitality of being here. You know, I've been wanting to connect with you for a while. I read your story kind of online, and I know that you've had a really immense career in business as an entrepreneur. Before we get into all that, though, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, where you're from and how you got started.
Okay, it's not a big story. My mother and father both were born in Germany. I was the first born here in the United States,
Yeah.
first and only to my parents. And then before you know it, it was World War II.
Yeah.
And my dad was in the war. And then it's 1945. And at that time, they didn't have any roots here or really have any money. So they were fortunate to get the government housing project because my father was a vet. And that was over called the Abbotsford Homes in Philadelphia. And probably 800-900 families lived there. And we lived there until I was 17, until I graduated Central High School in Philadelphia.
Wow. And what was it like at that time, you know, being Jewish at the time in that area? I've only know a little bit about the history, but was it?
Well, I would say in that area, as far as I know, I was the only Jew that lived in that project. So I didn't promote that very much.
Yeah.
Because I liked living and I wasn't the biggest guy in town. But it was great. It was just a great time. The interesting thing was that the school I attended, Central High School, was predominantly Jewish. It was a special school and you had to take a test to get there. And so that was predominantly Jewish. So my life every day flip-flopped back and forth. And I did that just forever. And it was just normal for me.
Sure.
But it was quite interesting as you look back on it. But the housing project really was the start of my business career. I went to work for the little store there at $10 a week. And when I was 16, I asked the owner if I could develop a delivery business, because most of the people that lived there didn't have cars, and it was the only game in town.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you see it today. So I would collect lists of my customers. They would write it out, and I'd pick it up, or they'd bring it in, or one way or another we'd get it. A lot of people did have phones, and I would delivery. I was delivery all day Friday after school and all day Saturday.
Wow.
And I made a lot of money. Poor people really tip well.
Yeah.
And the bigger problem I had was I didn't have any time to spend it.
Yeah, that's a good problem. So you're 15, 16 years old. You kind of got that entrepreneur bug. Had your parents been entrepreneurs, or where do you think that kind of came from? Or was it out of necessity of?
It was just, I don't know if it was out of necessity. It just seemed like the normal thing to do. And if I wanted to keep up, particularly with the kids that were my friends at Central,
Oh, yeah.
They always thought my father had money because I always had a nice car, and it was just. And I never really gave it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
To be honest, it just morphed into doing that.
Yeah.
And I liked the idea of being independent and always having my own money. So I was able to pay for my own college and my own car, whatever I wanted to do. I didn't have to ask my parents for any money.
Now, Mann Corp, I know, is doing business essentially all over the world. Where did you start?
Well, I started as just Henry Mann. It was just Henry Mann Company, then incorporated, and it morphed into just shortening names and so forth.
Yeah.
But I really just started. I sold my Corvette and moved back to my mom and dad, and started in a little, very small room. It was only a house of 3 bedrooms total, 1 story, and that's where I started. I was there about maybe 6 or 8 months, and my dad was concerned about the zoning or neighbors.
Running a business out of the house.
He was very concerned about anything that had to do with police, and so I found a little place for $100 a week that I shared with somebody else. And at that time, I noticed in the newspaper somebody was going out of business, and they had a printing press and a lot of things that were used for mailing. So I bought all that stuff. And I brought it to this new location that I had. The only problem was I didn't know how to work it. So I went to, I think it was Addressograph Multigraph, and I went down to look, posed as I was going to buy something, but it didn't work. But what I did is I went to the local high school and hired somebody who was taking printing there, a kid that was taking printing, and he came in and made that thing hum. And that was the start of the actual direct mail business.
Wow.
So at that point I had 1 employee full-time, 1 lady working for me full-time. I was starting to pick up a few products to sell, and I knew that it was just a great time, and I couldn't conceivably visit all the potential customers that were out there. So I just went into this idea of putting the information on paper along with the prices. And that was revolutionary back there, I got to tell you. Nobody did that.
And this was approximately what year?
66, 67.
Wow.
I have catalogs that are dated 1967.
Wow. So
Wow.
you've been in business over 50 years.
Yes.
Wow. That's quite something. So obviously going from this, you were kind of like the home-based business guy before running a home-based business was
Yeah. Well, I was out of the home pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
But started in a very small space and,
yeah,
and
was
scaled.
happy myself. It scaled fairly quickly as I had to develop product lines. The first thing I did was go to Europe, and with my last couple bucks, I flew to Europe, and I needed to get a line of tweezers, because I saw that was very big in the microelectronics, in the electronics industry, and I was able to work out quite a few relationships there in Switzerland, whereby they would stamp our brand on the tweezer. So a key that I've always lived with is brand and direct selling.
Yeah.
And it started back then.
And so you were a young guy at this time, very young. Were you getting on the ground and going to Switzerland or going to these places yourself?
Well, what am I now?
Yeah. You're quasi-young, young at heart for sure.
I think that I've always been very focused on brand, to have our own brand and keep that brand strong.
Yep.
And that, of course, refers to quality and service and everything else that they talk about today, and direct sales, so that you're directly involved with the customer. And in most cases, I want to be directly involved with the manufacturer that's producing the product for me, or ourselves who is manufacturing it, and the customer directly.
Yeah.
And that's the quickest way for distribution, the most expensive way, not the quickest way for distribution, but to me, a very effective way.
Effective. And so a lot of these, partners that you're working with, or suppliers, or whatever you want to call them, they're in different countries. Are you physically getting on the ground there? And
yes, I would always visit the people that produced the products for us. So I had 1 or 2 manufacturers in Switzerland, 1 or 2 in Germany, 1 in Holland. They were the primary countries. The problem was their items were slightly competitive. They were different variations of the same item. And I had to get them I had to mix them together. That was the difficult part because they viewed the other party that I dealt with as a competitor to them. But in
Gotcha.
America, I mixed it all together under the Mann brand. And then I mixed that. Then I started to also manufacture. Then I ultimately moved into my first building, and opened a machine shop, and started to manufacture some of our own products. So it was a combination of some of these things that were branded or made for me under my brand overseas, and the products that we made ourselves.
So today, talk about the scope of the products that Mann Corp actually sells, or at least some of the main products that you guys
Well,
are.
today, obviously the electronics industry has changed substantially. It was all known as through-hole back in the day, and that was where you had the components that went through the circuit board. Today, it's all surface mount, which means the components are just directly applied to the circuit board, and they adhere without any mechanical necessity. So that's called surface mount technology. So we have a full range of surface mount technology machines. We generally address the small, medium range customer. Again, four of the reasons are that number one is that a great deal of the manufacturing isn't done in America.
Right.
So most of the manufacturing that has been performed here over the last few years has been with the small, medium range companies, so they'd be most comfortable in dealing with our equipment.
And some of your clientele, like what application are they using these boards for?
Originally, we marketed our equipment more to the contract manufacturer.
Yeah.
So he would then have various customers that required circuit board and circuit board equipment.
Sure.
More recently, we've really gone directly to the end user, or the OEM.
Yeah.
So somebody that's actually designed and manufactures their own product. And a lot of times they're very entrepreneurial in their own right, and they don't want to give up the drawings and the inventions that they have. It's like once you ship it out of your company, it's gone, and
Yep.
particularly if you ship it overseas. And also they need to have the ability to do smaller production, pre-production, prototyping, and so forth. So we've addressed that. We have a customer right now. Last week we had a customer that makes actually the foot pedals for a guitar, electric guitar. Previously, this week we also quoted a customer that has designed a new camera system that will actually project an image wirelessly 25 miles. So I'm sure that the government's going to be a big customer for that guy. Hi, Dan.
Hey.
This is welcome to Mann Corp and
Yeah.
LED lights.
I'm excited to check it out. Now, are these two separate LED lights in Mann Corp? Are they both run out of this building, or?
Yes, they are. Two separate corporations
Okay.
that I own, but they're both run out of this company. And the employees sort of work on both sides of the fence. A lot of our people work
I'm
on
excited
both
to check
companies.
it out.
Well, welcome to our office.
I'm glad we're hitting you on a Saturday too, so we don't have to. I'm sure it's pretty hustle and bustle in here during the week.
Yes, it is. So over here we have some of our actually newer employees. We have a lighting engineer. I think he celebrated his 32nd birthday this week. One of our coders for the back end of all the online materials we do, and all the internet, and sales associate over here. Over here, this lady here works on our LED lights company, RMAs, customers, contacts, and so forth, reviewing all the orders. And this is for Mann Corp,
Gotcha.
our office manager, and takes care of all the purchasing and so forth for Mann Corp. Along this line, we have a Mann Corp engineer, my office, a controller.
So, about how many people work here?
About 35.
35.
35 people. So this is a manual stencil printer because we just don't have the room for the fully automatic one here. So a stencil is placed here, and they put solder paste over that. That's what stencils a solder paste onto the circuit board.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that normally would be over there where the other machine is. I just don't have the room right now.
I see.
And we're still in the prototyping stage. And this is a depaneler. So when the boards come out of the reflow oven, this singulates them into individual strips.
Gotcha.
It's all part of the process. It's just a little backwards here because we're just prototyping and we're still looking.
So this is
at
before
more.
any pieces are put on.
Correct. This is the where you manufacture the heart of the LED light or any circuit board assembly.
Okay.
Mann Corp is a 50-year-old company with space age or current technology on all of its products. So prior to the pick and place machine, you require a stencil printer. Okay. So the circuit board the circuit board is does not have the parts on it, so the stencil printer places the solder paste on the
gotcha.
circuit board. This happens to be an LED board, but on any circuit board. Then that is put into the pick and place machine. Again, that's usually an automated process. The pick and place machine has a lot of very complex mechanisms. It has 3 pickup heads. It has cameras upside and downside, so it can shoot down and up, and it's all controlled electronically. So placing these parts is very critical. This machine places about 10,000 parts per hour.
Wow.
And there are machines that place less, and there are machines that place more. These are made in Germany, and they're part of the overall process for making the machine have extreme accuracy.
Gotcha.
These are the parts. Now, normally machines are filled with many different parts. This is just for our prototyping of the LED
I see.
boards. Okay,
Nice.
so this is the pick and place.
Very cool. There's a lot of square footage here.
We have about 18,000 square foot now, and we're moving to 33,000, we hope, shortly.
So you, I know you're buying several buildings. What's the purpose of? Did you buy a building and then you just bought another building?
I
Or?
bought one building, and the building wasn't ready, so I'm looking, and I just made a contract for a second building that's twice the size of this one, 33,000 square feet,
Gotcha.
where we will ramp up our manufacturing. We'll ramp up our robotics assembly next year, and our entire staff will be housed there. We're going to redo the entire building to
Yeah, consolidate everything into one space.
right, and
Nice.
to make it suitable for most of the type of ages of the employees that
Sure,
are coming
sure.
on board, that are onboarding.
Yeah. What are the future plans that you guys are working on now to expand? I know you're
We have
still.
some great future plans.
Yeah.
Well, most of the people that work for me are worried about my future plans. They think I move a little bit too quickly.
For them, all the 25-year-olds.
Yeah, all the 25-year-olds, they're a little worried. But our future plans are we're already starting to manufacture the LED product on our own equipment. It's a logical transition. We already make and sell these machines, and our technicians are well versed with them, so we know that technology
Sure, sure.
straight up.
Sure.
And we kind of now know the lighting technology as well for selling the imported product.
Sure.
So we already have made our first prototypes, and we'll be applying for ETL and UL certification. We've hired a lighting engineer, additional techs, and additional people in the background on the marketing and the side, the social media side, and
Sure.
so forth. So we're building it out on all fronts, on the sales side, online business. We also now have another part of our business that is planning, whereby we go into shopping centers or car dealers and we do the entire lighting plan for them,
Nice.
bringing in all the fixtures that they need. And we do that free of cost for anybody that buys from us. So now we're going to provide the manufacturing. We've already done the prototyping on a few products, and we are now in the final process of ordering our first completely robotic assembly equipment, which will be installed in our new building. The projected date would be the second half to the last quarter of 2019 for the robots. And at that time, we will then be able to completely produce the light engine, the LED portion, the electronics, and assemble the fixture on a completely robotic assembly line.
How many other competitors will have that kind of?
None.
None. Where do you feel like you get the drive from? Do you feel like you kind of from your mother or your father? Who do you take after?
I guess it was primarily my mom was more of a driver than my dad. she came to this country. She already knew she spoke English, and she's a little tiny lady as well. And I know in the 50s we always to go to work together. She worked in a factory, but at night, every night, she went to school to learn IBM data processing.
Wow.
And before you know it, she graduated and got a job, an office job in data processing.
Wow.
And she made it work.
It's so great you've really lived that American story, really, that everybody is wanting to come here and make make a ripple that really lasts. I'm sure this business is going to be running for a very long time and continue to expand and grow. For our viewing audience out there that's watching this interview and they're thinking, here's a guy that's followed his passion. Here's a guy that has worked hard and achieved, a lot of success. Maybe I'm thinking about pulling the trigger and starting my own business. Any advice for them to start their own business?
Yeah, I guess do it.
Go do it. Stop talking about it.
It's hard. I mean, you really you have to be driven, and today there is no shutting it off because of the communications.
Sure.
The communications worldwide.
Yeah.
The competition is really, really tough.
Yeah.
And but I see that I guess number one, you really have to have an education.
Yeah.
If you don't go to school and learn something about something.
Whether it be traditional education or entrepreneurship, you still got to know something about something.
Right. And you actually have to have a lot of drive and
guts.
And a lot of chutzpah, a lot of guts.
A lot of chutzpah.
A lot of risk. So I don't do any gambling.
Yeah. A lot of chutzpah. Well, Henry, I'm excited to, first of all, I hear that you're an avid car collector, and I want to take a look at some of these cars. And is it cool if we go see that stuff?
Yeah, I'd be really
I'm excited
happy.
to see
We're just getting started with that. And by the way, prior to being a car guy, I was a plane guy. I used to own my own plane, and I am an instrument-rated pilot as well.
Wow, you've certainly done it all. Well, let's go check that out.
There we go.
Man. I don't know what I would pick out of these cars. I love the look of that BMW, but man, I don't know. There's so many insane.
Well, it's a BMW GTS, M4 GTS. So this is like a...
What's the horsepower?
493. It's like a factory-built race car. It comes with factory roll bars installed.
This car. I love them. Is that matte?
Yeah, it's a matte frozen gray metallic finish. Comes with the factory spoiler, really cool gold wheels, and it only has 2 seats. The rest of it, the interior has the factory roll bar. Interior of the car, it doesn't have any power seats. It has a pull strap for closing the door, a lot of lightning or items that will make the car lighter. This is the Z06 Corvette with the Callaway add-on that takes the original supercharger and changes it to the Callaway system. 657 horsepower, 650 foot-pounds of torque. Again, a carbon fiber hood. A lot of great looking car, just a phenomenal looking car. Now they have coming out with the new ZR1. This is the Z06. So Callaway is would be an aftermarket tuner. I know Reeves Callaway would appreciate the opportunity to show his wares. And he signed the valve cover on the other side.
Now, what year is this?
It's actually a 2015, but it's a current model.
Oh yeah.
I usually buy the cars as soon as they come out. That's the most fun. This is a Mercedes-Benz CLK, C63 CLK Black Edition. So that's the unique part of it. It's called the Black Edition. Very limited production, maybe a couple hundred cars worldwide.
Wow.
Comes with factory flared fenders. Great sounding car. Again, only has 2 seats. Looks like it should have 4 seats, only has 2 seats. And it's a 2008 one-year only car.
Wow.
Really very rare car, but extremely rare in red.
Wow.
Which is my thing. So if you look here, there are spots for the rear seats, but there aren't any rear seats. So this is the CSLS Mercedes Gullwing. This is an iconic car, 2012, and it's just a beauty. There's nothing like it. This is the Acura NSX in Valencia red with an all-white interior, which is a very special edition.
This paint is...
Paint is a very rare, expensive option. I actually went to the factory. This is designed and built in America. It's made in America. And I went to the factory. My son and I actually visited the factory for 2 days. It's a great experience, including racing the cars on their own track. This car has 4 engines.
4 engines?
Yes. 2 electric engines in the front. They drive the front wheels. 2 turbocharged V6 plus an electric engine behind that. So it has 4 engines, 3 electric and...
This car makes me weaker than these.
Well, it's probably the easiest car I have to drive. It's an amazing car.
To drive?
Because it's just so smooth. It's a 9-speed automatic transmission. It just hooks up and flies because the electric motors start first. And it's a wonderful car. You can read a lot about that.
Now, honestly, how often do you drive?
Well, not that often, because I work all the time. The weekends, it either rains.
And that's why you have these cars.
It rains or whatever else. And so it's really hard. And it's difficult, too, to just jump into them because they're all different. I say 2018 was the Dodge Demon. This is 840 horsepower.
So is this the highest horse?
Yeah.
Power?
This is rear drive. Probably not the fastest because some of the other cars are all-wheel drive, like the NSX or the GTR I have. But the Dodge Demon is the icon car, generally at least for the American.
Can we see under the hood of this one?
car.
Oh.
Most people only go for a ride with me once.
Really? And then they're like, wow.
So this is the Dodge Demon. This is the 840 horsepower car. They have a lot of little cool icons of the Demon. The air grabber. This is all original factory stuff.
Wow.
And of course it's the Hemi, 6.2 liter Hemi.
Is that
Is
that Obama?
Yeah, that's my friend on the left worked for Obama, and when he left, he invited his family in for a picture. He did. I also visited the White House. This is truly the best thing in my garage. This is a certificate from Germany for my dad. At the age, he was 19 when he received this. This is from Opel, and he would have driven 200,000 kilometers in one car. And received this from Opel in 1927, and he was born in 1908, so he'd have been just 19 years old when he received this. He drove 200 kilometers in Germany in one car. So he's the same guy that drove across country in 1937.
Do you feel like your love of cars maybe came from your dad?
It had to, sure.
Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah.
Wow. What's the story on this cop car?
So this is an original 1970 California CHP car. It's a 1970 Mercury 428 police special. This is the original car, restored.
Wow.
It's not a made-after car, it's the original documentation. And the key to this car is it was 1 year only, and the Ford Police Special engine. So this is the famous Ford 428 Police Special, a V8 engine. Obviously it came with the police car.
Wow.
This car did 140 miles an hour. The specifications had to exceed 140 miles an hour in 1970 to be a CHP car. Typically, most of the cars were Dodges. I don't know, for whatever reason, they tried Mercury in 1970. Both of these cars were at the Hershey Museum as work cars. They had an exhibit of work cars for 6 months. So the Highway Patrol car was a work car, obviously. And this is a work car. It's a Studebaker business coupe that only has one seat. And
One seat.
the rest of it is trunk. So it was the businessman's, salesman's car of the day. And what's unique about this car is the front, which is the space-age Studebaker look of the 1950s.
Yep.
And the profile of the roof on the car is just very, very interesting.
Wow.
All-time favorite of most of the people that visit me
Yeah.
is the 61 Chevy bubble top.
It stands out.
It's a Chevy Super Sport, dual 4-barrel carburetors, 409 horsepower. This is the 409. The song was like Chevy 409. This is the car. 1963 Avanti, first year for the car, designed by Raymond Loewy for Studebaker Corporation. This car is fiberglass, has a space age design inside. Again, 1963, and I'm in love. The big following from the STP, Andy Granatelli was a big follower
Wow.
of this car at that time. So you can see the inside is the 4-speed, beautiful red interior. And the engine compartment, super clean.
Oh my
Came
goodness.
with chrome valve covers and air cleaner, and it does have factory headers. This is a 289 cubic inch car. Engine, 289 cubic inch engine, and the horsepower I think is 245.
You just don't see stuff like this driving down the street anymore. If I saw this, I would be like, what was that? My mind would be absolutely blown.
The original car was made 2 years. The original car, '63, was the round headlights, which are really spiffy.
Oh man.
They changed them to square headlights, and there's a few other changes for the '64s, and then they stopped manufacturing the car. Subsequently, a number of different people acquired the rights to manufacture the car over the years, and but it was never the same as the original car.
Everything about this car is just, it's so sexy. It's so amazing. I mean, it's just, it's like, you wonder what people in this year were thinking. It must have looked like some kind of a spaceship, you know, back at that time to see something like this driving down the road, you know?
Well, it's a shame. Studebaker just couldn't get any traction, even though they had something that was this modern. We look at it now as being super modern.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what they looked at, how it was looked at in 1963 and 64.
Oh man.
This is the love of my life, is our 49 Oldsmobile convertible. So it's a Rocket 88 Olds. The big thing about this car was the original, this started the muscle car era.
This was the start.
Yeah. This is the Rocket 88 V8, a whopping 135 horsepower, 303 cubic inches.
If you have this car though, you don't have to go fast.
Yeah, gotta go. But this is the original car. Has kind of a very unique carburetor and air filter setup.
Wow.
And they still today have the same architecture for the V8 engine. Overhead valve V8 engine. This was the first year. Chevrolet came out with an overhead valve V8 engine in 1955, Ford 1954, but Oldsmobile and Cadillac had it in 1949.
Right. So you have a lot of nice cars. Why does this one have kind of a special place?
I bought this car when I was about 15 and a half, and it was exactly like this car. It wasn't this car specifically, and I drove it for 4 years. Hard to believe I drove it for 4 years after driving this one. Just 2 minutes. But I drove it for 4 years. It was convertible. It was a 4-speed automatic, hydromatic car. And I believe I showed you pictures of it where I did some modifications of all back in the day, you always took all the chrome off, de-chromed it, put door exhaust on the car, and other modifications.
Wow.
But it's a unique piece of history for sure.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And let's see. Well, this is the piece I always liked, which is the rocket engine. Engine, and that's the story of the 1949. It was in 1950 they changed it to a one-piece windshield. They changed the chrome. They put a piece of chrome, changed the chrome on it a little bit. But the 49 was the only one I wanted because that's the one I owned.
Now, was this like mass production or?
Yes, I mean it would be mass production. I don't know exactly how many they made.
Yeah, you don't see them much.
No, I don't mean. I think it was a relatively expensive car back then.
Yeah.
I bought mine in 1955. Saved the one money and bought it in 1955.
Wow. So what's this like actually driving down the road? I noticed the steering wheel is a little bigger than they make them today.
I'd say driving this down the road, it's a little bit of a nostalgia, but it's pretty dangerous because it's so heavy. And
Yeah.
I don't know about the braking system and the transmission, so you really have to be careful driving this. In fact, I don't prefer to do that because I don't want to have an accident.
Sure.
I surely don't want to mess up my car. And especially at this point, a nostalgia piece that can look back on. And so it's not that easy to drive these old cars,
Sure.
particularly when you're surrounded with nice new stuff to drive.
Sure. And you mentioned, nostalgia to look back on. Let me ask you, when you look back on, starting your business when you were a very young man and, out of the home, and then all of a sudden you have these buildings, you have, your passion of all the cars, you're doing business all over the world, you have the name of your company, all these machines and these innovative young people now kind of taking the ball and branching out into different areas. What's that feel like to sit back now and look at what you've created?
Well, obviously it feels good. I can't say I'm sitting back.
Yeah.
I don't like that part. I'm still looking forward. I think there's a great deal still to be done and a lot of fun that we had, money to be made. I think it's been interesting to see it over the various decades of progress within just the world.
Yeah.
And for me, it's what keeps me going.
Sure.
You don't think about anything else. You don't think about what pills you take or what
Sure.
ailments you have. You just think about what are the tasks and the visions you need going forward, and what is going to keep your family and your employees in a cohesive unit.
And a lot of entrepreneurs say that running a successful business, they're not entrepreneurs. It's not like they go to work and they have their job. It's their whole life. It's their obsession, right? Is that a fair assessment for you?
That's true. You do live it, more than 8 hours a day. You live it from the time you get up in the morning until the time you go to bed at night. And of course, today, that's a whole lot easier because you're just receiving phone calls and texts and whatever other messages just all the time. So you're much more in touch with the world.
Yeah.
And that really is what makes it exciting. So when you think about traveling, you don't think about anything except making sure you have your phone charger.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, your story is such a great American story. It's such a, innovation and what you've done, and certainly not without hurdles, but you've been able to refine, tweak, and move and constantly, innovate and somehow mitigate risk at the same time and grow without going out and getting all the big, capital from angel investors and VCs and taking that great risk. And you've built something really substantial, and it's so great to hear about a story like this. I think that, I know that our viewers are very, very motivated, will be motivated after watching this to maybe pull the trigger and follow their passion as well.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come over and talk.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
really
Normally I would
appreciate
say, please come back on the show, but I'm going to ask, can I come back on the show? Because next time I want to try to drive one of these. It's unbelievable. Thank you so much, Henry, for giving me some of your
I
time.
hope to have you back towards the end of next year where you'll see a fully robotic production line.
I am
Possibly
looking forward
the
to
first,
it.
First in America doing the products we're talking about.
Well, thank you so much for having us. You're such an innovator. That's the time we have for our show. Don't forget to get involved in your local community and be forgiving of others. Good night, everybody.
So this is where I started, in this little room, and that was my first company car. a 67 Dodge station wagon. And I have one being restored right now.
Oh, wow.
So that was the beginning here. We quickly, my dad was concerned that I was working out of the house and would have a problem with the neighbors or some of the township people, but
Sure.
there wasn't not much activity going on yet.
So you were running a home-based business before it was popular.
Yeah, for about 6 months,
Yeah.
till he kicked me out.